From EPAWA Weather Consulting, headquartered in North Whitehall, Pennsylvania, this is Weather Weeklies, an informative video of the ins and outs of weather that affect you most in the EPAWA coverage area. The thoughts and opinions expressed in this video are those of the forecaster alone and may not reflect those of the staff of EPAWA Weather Consulting LLC as a whole, nor its constituents. Now, without further ado, here is meteorologist Bobby Martrich with Weather Weeklies.
Good Sunday morning to you. Another edition of Weather Weeklies for Sunday, January 26th. And we are, that's right, the 26th. It's already getting to the end of January. It seems like not too long ago we were ringing in the new year, and now here we are with a full month almost of the new year already expired. Also expired is the first couple of months of winter, and it really hasn't been much fanfare for the snow lovers, and they're wondering where winter has been this year. Some have already conceded that winter is over. Don't think so. But others are still holding out hope for a blockbuster February that just produces so much snow that it makes up for everything we didn't get so far, or, you know, the below average snowfall we didn't get in December and January, and make up for that and then some. Don't know about that either. Okay, I do think we're going to return into a pattern more conducive for snow to occur. I just don't know if it's going to be just a massive, I wouldn't go that far, one extreme to the other. Usually when people like to, and this is with anything in life, not just weather, whenever you have those that are so far on one side and so far on the other side, usually reality occurs somewhere in the middle, okay? And that's the case probably most likely here in February too. We still do have slightly above average snowfall for the month, and I do think that can still occur, but we are going to get into a better 500 millibar pattern. When I'm talking about a pattern change, I hate using that term. I use it very loosely because there's the pattern change means something different to everyone. So I can sit here and tell you from a meteorologist standpoint, the 500 millibar pattern is going to be different in February than it would or was this month or is. Somebody looking at this objectively that might not know what 500 millibars means and all that other stuff, and they just look at the bottom line. How much do we have? 20 inches of snow on the ground? Is it brutally cold every single day? Then no, it's not a pattern change to them. Okay, fair enough. Perception being reality. I'm thinking that there's not going to be a month that's going to be brutally cold. So we are going to turn slightly below average once we get past this right around the 5th, 6th. And I don't even know that there's going to be like, locked in. It could be some transient 3-4 days that's colder than average. And you get near average for a couple days and it goes back down again. You kind of up and down kind of stuff. Not as, but siding with slightly below average though. Not, it would be on the colder side of average, I think, for most of the time during the month of February. Not every single day, but most of the time. Whereas right now, toward the end of the month and the beginning of February, you're going to have near to slightly above average temperatures. Now, if you look at some of these temperature anomaly maps, you'll see people calling for a torch. It's not going to be a torch. Normal highs right now are kind of like 35, 36, 37, 38 north to south, something like that. Okay, so we're talking about temperatures that are going to be this upcoming week 40-ish, 42-ish. That's not really a torch. Is it slightly above average technically? Yes. Not by much. So it's not going to be brutally cold, or warm on as next couple of days. And then once we might even have a quick trough come in here to coincide with the storm that we're going to be watching right around the 1st and 2nd. I'm not too thrilled with this system here. Not too thrilled with it. It's going to take if it happens, it's a perfect thread the needle situation. I'll get into that in this video. Big takeaway here. We have another storm signal, by the way, here in the 7th and 8th. We'll get into that too. Big takeaway here from the outlook that we put in here is the Groundhog's Day. Regardless of what the Groundhog says on February 2nd, we think winter will last for an additional 68 weeks, and that's not going to be an early spring type thing. It might say early spring. We disagree. I don't think so. I think you're going to have a lingering effect, and my gut feeling is, and I only do long-range outlooks for about a month, my gut feeling is that once we go into early spring when everybody's expecting to be warmer, I think we're going to have some lingering effects here of the colder, unfortunately. Continuing. So when you're wanting it to be spring, winter will want to hang on a little bit, even though it's arrived much later. Here's what the average snowfall is by location, and these are some selected locations, major climate sites here in our region. For January, we're going to finish below average because we have no snow coming this week. So these, whatever you have for the month right now, which isn't much, it's going to be below average everywhere at all of these locations. And then February snow, this is what the averages are. They go up a little bit in some locations. And I do think we can achieve these and get at least get to this and above that for the month of February. Again, because from my standpoint as a meteorologist, I'm looking at this as a pattern change that's different from what we've seen predominantly in the month of January. Much different. I mean, you had temperatures that are +5 to +8 above average is what we're going to finish the month at. At least that's what we project it to be this month. Next month, you're going 0 to -3. That's quite a change, quite a difference. So I think that would qualify as a pattern change in my book. Might not in yours, but we'll see. Here's what average snowfall is for the month of February, and I do think that we can achieve these totals, if not exceed. How far we exceed that will remain to be seen, and we could get some. You still have an opportunity for some bigger ones, maybe that you could have something bigger. It's not impossible, but I think the pattern largely going forward is going to be, smaller events that just add up, kind of thing. So at least we'll have opportunities in the month of February. Here is examining the temperature periods. Again, this is the late month period. This is the near to slightly above average that we're dealing with now. This results in temperatures 40, 42-ish. This is not a blowtorch, even though it's showing these reds here. It's not hot, okay? Going to that little thread the needle period. Right at the end of the month, very early February, you get a near average, maybe even near to slightly below average. Right to coincide with that storm coming in. So we'll see. There could be something there, but it's going to come down to timing. I'll show you that here in a little bit. Here is the period after that, leading up to that cold front that we expect right around the 5th or 6th of February. And on the lead of that, that's going to be can't spit it out here. The cold front here is going to be the lead of this trough coming in here. It's going to get us to colder than average temperatures behind it, but it's not going to get brutally cold. It just gets slightly below average. And if you look at, this is the period this is actually looking between the 10th and the 11th of the month. And you can see where the colder temperatures are. Okay, we are technically slightly below average. Okay, and here's the Euro Weeklies has for the week, that week, and the week after that. Same thing. Okay, colder up here. It's got a lot colder up here, but still. Here is in our area where it matters for me is the slightly below average temperatures. If you look at the Euro Monthlies, they projected pretty much the same thing. The coldest anomalies being out here in the Midwest and Plain States, but we are still slightly below average for the temperatures for the entire month as a whole of February. So we're kind of transitioning to that. The ensembles are still going in that direction, so everything is still on track for something like this to occur. So we're going to maintain our 0 to -3 temperature departures for the month of February. No reason to change that. Also, Manitoulin oscillation projections do have us in this circle of death right now. This goes from today through February 9th, okay? And this is, I'm going to draw over this. This is kind of confusing here, but this is the European ensembles. Takes it through the circle of death, briefly into phase 5, say 6-ish, and then goes right back in the circle of death and kind of just sits there and loops around and does one of these numbers. So it's in the circle of death, okay? That's the whole point. Predominantly, we're going to be in the circle of death. Now, circle of death, the word death doesn't mean death like you're done. It implies something different than it actually is. But it actually just means that the tropical convection that controls the jet streams and things like that throughout the entire globe, and this is actually taking place in the Indian Ocean and Pacific Ocean, that the tropical forcing is not enough to really affect the pattern if it's in a circle of death. Some of our biggest storms we've ever had, blizzard in '96, 2016 storm that was we had a 4-year anniversary of just this past week, occurred when the MJO was in the circle of death. So this is not a death sentence like the name implies. Okay, so that's what the Euro has. GFS, though, is very interesting. Actually takes it very similarly through the circle of death into phase 6, and then comes back into the circle of death. That's fine. So we're agreeing so far to this point with the European model, but then it does its own thing. And I used the bias-corrected GFS here because, just to make sure it wasn't doing something goofy, because the GFS does that sometimes. But it takes it out of the circle of death into phase 2 and phase 3 after that. Well, now, normally you're probably going, oh no, here we go again. Back in the Indian Ocean, La Nina phases, heading over to phase 4, phase 5 eventually. If it keeps going, maybe that's not good. Well, it isn't good in early winter. It is good in late winter. Okay, so these change. The meanings of these phases change once we get into late winter. And you can see that here. I've used the same image, phase 2, phase 3. Look at phase 2 and phase 3. These aren't warm phases anymore. Well, this wasn't warm anyway, but phase 3 was. Now it's not. In the late winter period, February, March, April. This is the composite for those 3 months. Phase 3 is now a cold phase. Phase 4, marginally warm, kind of like we're going to have this week, Phase 5, a little cooler than average. Okay. So if you get into over here, it's not that bad of it. This isn't that bad of a look for the month of February. So it makes sense, even if this is correct, taking it in this, which I don't know yet. This is not a death sentence. This is actually pretty good for this time of year. So if it ends up going into here, you can get some pretty good storms, pretty cold and colder than average temperatures. So I think that's where we're heading. Now, as far as the Indian Ocean is concerned, I bring this up because we had a positive IOD, which is an Indian Ocean dipole. Okay. Now, remember we had these Australian wildfires, and it was big headline news all over just about every news station, and a lot of them were blaming it on climate change. You know, I'll tell you what, folks. A lot of people have asked me. We try to stick away from the whole climate change topic because it's a politically motivated, you know, one side or the other, and it's just, you know, I don't want to get involved in that nonsense. But when you start taking individual naturally occurring things in cycles, and then turn that into something like wildfires occurring in Australia, and blame that on climate change, I have an issue with that, because that is no different from a Category 5 hurricane hitting somewhere in the southeastern U.S. or southern Gulf states or Puerto Rico or Dominican Republic or wherever. And they try to turn that into climate change too. I don't like taking individual weather events. Weather events and climate are two different things. One is over a very long period of time, and one is a singular event for a shorter period of time, obviously. So this is the same thing here with these Australian wildfires. This was a result of the positive IOD, a positive Indian Ocean dipole, and this is what it looks like, okay? And reduced chance of rain across Australia. All right, this wasn't really the point of what I was trying to show you this for. The point was this is a lingering effect from the El Nino that we had last year. Okay, so you had all this warm water sitting out here in the maritime continent, which is right here, and then you had the Western Pacific out here. So what happened with time is this is a lingering effect of that IOD. Everything pushed west here. All that warm water pushed west into the Indian Ocean and near the east coast of Africa. So you had warmer than average temperatures out here. So this affects your Madden-Julian oscillation phases and keeps it into these are the La Nina phases right in here of the Madden-Julian oscillation. So the Madden-Julian oscillation this year, this winter, has really behaved like a La Nina, even though we're not in a La Nina. And it's because of those lingering effects from last year and the warmer waters here. Okay, it also reduced the rain in Australia, and then you get a couple morons lighting fires, arson, you know, and then next thing you know, you have a big issue. So that was the problem with Australia, and it was a result of a naturally occurring climate cycle. And this also affected our weather, and at least in the first half of the winter, because when you have a positive IOD in the beginning of winter, it's going to be a death sentence for any kind of snow here. All right, and we've seen that. This is one reason. Okay, again, later in the winter, this is not going to have the same effect. You can hang out there all day. These are the same phases we're in the Indian Ocean. I mean, once I hang out there in the late winter months, that's going to be good for us. Okay, if you want snow. I keep using that term good, but some people are like, it's not good to me, so come again. But those of you that are missing snow, that's fine if it hangs out here in these La Nina-like phases here late winter. Okay. The other reason is the unexpected strong PV. We talked about this in previous videos, so I don't want. This is actually a projection this Wednesday morning for it still to be strong. There is some signs that the stratospheric PV will start to displace and disrupt later. Okay. And that could or could not happen. Might even disrupt to the point where it only affects the other side of the globe too. So I don't want to really hang on the stratospheric PV. It's how it couples to the troposphere that I'm worried about. This is not necessary for February to still work out the way you're projected. If it stays over the pole the entire time, we'll still get what we're projecting this month. So this is a wild card that can get you even colder, but we'll see. We'll see. These have failed many times. So, but this is one of the reasons why winter has also, I think this and the positive IOD, or those two factors combined, are what really has done in winter to this point. Okay? Now, again, things can change going into February, and I think they will. Now we have this is a storm signal thing that I wanted to show you as a point of reference. This is not, we don't use models for long range storm signal projections. We just like to highlight out certain days and mark them on the calendar, and then continue to watch that period as we get closer when the models come into range. Well, the first one was that we actually, not just this past long range outlook on Friday, but the week before, we listed February 2nd as a possible time frame. Well, February 2nd is right here, and we do have a possibility of snow that day. Okay, and then it's going to depend on the track of the storm and things like that. I'll get into a second. Okay, so it's now the models are now picking up on that. They're also showing one right around our second storm signal on the 7th and 8th, and have a third up here around the 10th, 11th time frame here. But there's some signals there to corroborate what we have had for a while now in the long-range outlook. So we do these signals. We do it more globally observational based, and then once the models come into range and they start showing what we've been trying to sell as signals, we start paying attention a little bit more. We're still not at the point where we're excited about this next weekend, though, because it's going to be another one of those thread the needle situations. It's in between an otherwise marginal pattern, which is what we're going to have through about the 5th or so of February, maybe in the 6th. Okay, you might have a quick transient shot of cold air come in here, and you have a strong ridge out here. You have this trough coming in here like this. Okay, so that's what you're dealing with. You have a southern stream system that's going to cut across the Gulf and into Florida and up here like this. Now the question is, there's an upper level low that's on the base of this incoming trough. Is this going to interact with this in the right time and the right spot to give you snow? Because it's going to have to. The reason is, where's your high pressure up here? There is no high pressure there. You have a bunch of these little lows sitting up here. There's an L there, they're all over the place. But there's usually a big high sitting over top of this, and if you had that, there would be no question. You have a lot more wiggle room here. As long as it tracks in the right direction, you'd have a big snowstorm here. I'm not very confident with the absence of that high pressure there. It's just not a good feeling for me. Can it happen? Sure. Okay, we just don't know if that's going to happen yet because we don't know where these players are going to be. This upper level low will have to interact with this southern stream low as it cuts across the Gulf, and it has to do so at the right time. Exactly the right time. So this is what we call thread the needle. Okay, can it happen? Sure, absolutely. Okay, but here's the European model last night. The same model, by the way, that showed a couple days ago or 2 days ago had a big blizzard with a tucked in low right along the coast. And it did have its phasing nicely. Now it doesn't. Now, this could change every 12 hours or 6 hours. But this is your southern stream low, runs way out ahead of your upper level low. So it runs right out of here, and it doesn't catch up to it. So the only thing you're left with is this low moving through here, and you get maybe some rain/snow showers with a clipper type system. And that's it. Okay, a lot of different solutions with this weekend, and there's nothing out there right now that it gives me confidence that, hey, this is probably right. Okay, and we're not going to know that until we get to the middle of the week. So please continue to follow along throughout the week for this. This can change. And again, you could have a situation that produces snow, accumulating snow, maybe even big snow, but it's going to have to be exactly perfectly timed for that to happen. And the odds of that happening are low. It's kind of like when you have two guys that are standing 20 feet away from a wall, okay, and they're throwing a ball. They're both throwing a ball at the same time. You count down from 3, 2, 1, go, and they throw the ball against the wall, and they're trying to hit the same exact spot. Odds are they're not going to hit it at exactly the same time and in the same spot, okay? They might 1 out of every 10 times. That's kind of like what we're dealing with here, okay? This, and I'm going to go back to the previous image here because it's probably a better example. This upper level low and this surface low coming out of the Gulf here have to be timed at exactly the right period of time and exactly the right point in order, and that's very difficult to do. Very difficult to do. So, can it happen? Yes. We'll see. We'll continue to track it. Temperatures remain very slightly above average this week, but not a torch by any means. Again, we're going to be maybe 40, 42-ish for a couple days through the end of the week. Might have a quick signal or a quick drop here toward the weekend to coincide with our thread the needle system, which we're watching next weekend for that thread the needle storm chance. And then more realistically, we'll have those chances increase beyond the 7th of February. I think you have a better chance actually with our second signal than we do the first. The second signal we outlined is the 8th and 9th, or excuse me, the 7th and 8th. So that'll be another signal we're going to watch, but there's other additional ones after that. Okay, as long as the southern jet is continuing to be amped and have plenty of moisture along it, we're always going to have a chance as long as we are near to slightly below average temperatures. So February can go boom or bust. The evolution is uncertain, but we have more confidence this week on a more favorable pattern to get at least some snow. Maybe not a blockbuster storm that just makes up for the entire winter in one shot, I would doubt that. Again, that's the extreme solution. We have extreme solutions on both sides. Usually reality exists somewhere in the middle. So we're going to have at least some snow chances because we have a better 500 millibar pattern in February. Does that mean we're going to be gangbusters with snow and have well above average snowfall by the end of the season? Probably not. Possible, of course, but I wouldn't get too excited. But I do think it doesn't just limit to just this month of February. It's not like we only have weeks 2, 3, and 4 in February, and then the winter's over. I think we're going to continue into March and have threats into March again this year. Might go through most of the month where it lingers. Okay, so this could be something that just continues. It's like a backloaded type winter here, but I don't know how loaded it's going to be just yet. Again, just at least some snow and snow chances going forward. But I think more realistically, not next weekend, but the storm signal after that, I think is going to be a little bit better. That's this edition of Weather Weeklies for Sunday, January 26th. Join us again next week, and hopefully have a better idea on those storm signals and what we're dealing with at that time as we get a little bit closer, and maybe even doing some call maps for next weekend if that works out right. But we aren't there at that point yet. We'll figure that out throughout the course of this week. Take care.